Autobots, Decepticons, and Duelists. Welcome to today's video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Predaplant Bufolicula. I'm going to apologize right now if I butchered that name, but in my defense, can anyone pronounce that? Look at it, I cannot say its name. Before we get started, for those of you who don't know, this is a pendulum monster. A pendulum monster is a half monster, half spell card in a way. And I have a hot take right now. I think pendulum monsters are overhated. Yes, I said it. Personally, I think they get overhated. I understand why, as a spell card / monster, we have to learn whole new effects. We also have to learn a whole new mechanic. But it wasn't exactly the hardest. And to be fair, spell trap monsters kinda had always been a thing. Like equip cards, like with the Mechana cards, if I said that correctly. Heck, even the Buster Blader cards, which is a little more modern, you could argue, they specialize in equipping monsters to Buster Blader. So, yeah, it's defense. And plus, also, in the early days of Yugioh, in Duel Monsters, when they had the Orichalcos arc, monsters were allowed to be in the Spell and Trap Zone. So, honestly, I think Spell and Trap card monsters was always a thing. They just gave it a new summoning mechanic. But again, I understand why it was hated. And before I jump into his effects, I did some research on what plant he was based off, and I believe he's based off the Bufolicula plant. Again, sorry if I butchered these names. But you can kind of tell with his back that he is kind of similar to the Bufolicula plant. Apologies if I butcher the name. But yeah, those were just some interesting facts. And at the time of me recording this video, he is currently one of my weakest pendulum monsters. And when I say weakest, I mean in terms of level, attack and defense, and I could also argue scale. But scale 0 is pretty cool. Now anyways, enough about this. He's a level 1 dark attribute plant pendulum effect monster whose monster effect reads, if this card is sent to the graveyard or added to your extra deck face up because it was used as fusion material, you can add one face up dark pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand, except Predaplant Bufolicula. God, I can never say his name. You can only use this effect of Predaplant Bufolicula once per turn. So, yeah. I'm going to talk about his effect first. His monster effect. So you pretty much, when you use him as fusion material and he either goes to the graveyard or the extra deck, you get to add another Predaplant to your hand, and it can't be this one. That's actually not too bad. Especially against the Predaplant archetype. I've gone up against them a couple of times. My goodness, those monsters are dangerous. They got some decent effects, and my goodness, they got some decent attack. I wouldn't say they're the best cards, but they're not too bad. Honestly, I think this is probably one of those decks I don't want to go up against. Alright, but now for his pendulum effect. During your main phase, you can fusion summon one dark fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. You can only use this effect of Predaplant Bufolicula once per turn. Okay, pretty similar to his monster effect, except he allows you to fusion summon, and honestly, I think you're allowed to use the pendulum scales for fusion summoning. I mean, it doesn't exactly state anywhere he couldn't use. He said field. Technically, it's on the field, so technically you could use it if you wanted to. But yeah, he's scale 0, so that means he can summon monsters 1. And which, if you have another scale monster like 12, then you can pretty much summon every monster from your deck. The scale's not too bad. Honestly, that's probably its best part right there. I do think you'd probably use this more for his pendulum ability than his monster effect. And while it never stated really on the card, if this card was destroyed by battle or destroyed on the field, it would go to the extra deck. Which is another thing why people hate pendulum monsters. And it's kind of fitting because I chose a card I chose an archetype where people don't hate the person. I guess you can argue they hate the person, but he was hated in the universe of Arc 5. So, yeah. I mean, you could probably throw this in other archetypes. But for as long as you're using Dark Fusion. So like you could probably do it for Dark Magician if you wanted to. You could also probably do it for, well, obviously Predaplant because it's this archetype. Yeah. Honestly, you could probably use him for Dark Fusion monsters. Ooh, like the evil heroes if you wanted to, but I can understand why no one really wants to. But yeah, that's actually gonna be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoy, and I hope to see you all later.